a coach, man. I am so glad to do this podcast.
It's going to get weird.
It's going to get weird. A lot of people know Porter on this podcast. Porter's been a client for 11 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Over a decade.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It's been a long time.
So, those who don't know you, tell your story on when you got to Oxford.
So I got to Oxford. I guess I can just do a kind of a faster up to the point where we met. So I got to Oxford. I never partied in high school, but right in junior college I started partying. And so I came to Ole Miss like 2 weeks early, convinced my parents I needed to get there early to get settled in, which was not the case. So I get there, my friends that I were with in high school that I never partied with were here early too, and so we started partying early. So first semester I get in there and I'm just partying, failing. Eventually, a couple semesters later, I failed out and I had to do. My parents were like, "We're not paying for it," so I had to work 3 jobs at one time.
Oh wow!
So I was working at the animal shelter in Oxford, the Turner Center, and delivering pizzas in Pontotoc all at the same time in the summer. I got no sleep, but I was like, all right, I learned my lesson. Right. So I backed off on that. And then eventually, after I graduated, I was like, what do I want to do? You know? And so I prayed about it, and God just put it on my heart, like, check the fire department out. And so I was like, I want to go to the fire department, but there's no volunteer around here. I did zero research. Lo and behold, Lafayette County is the biggest volunteer department in the state and the most successful. Yeah. So, like, actually, statewide, between more than one state, it's the most successful. And so I found out where they were, started volunteering. I was like, all right, this is it. This is what I want to do. So I started doing that, and then got into that, went to the academy, came back. I put myself through the academy, which I had to work a temp job in Memphis for a year while I was finishing school. Most of those guys didn't graduate high school, so I worked for them and with them. And then when I finally got the job, I had to quit my job there. I had to save money while I was working as a temp, because when I quit, I was on my own for 6 weeks. I don't know how that happened. Somehow God was like, all right, we're going to multiply this money without you looking, and it worked out. And so I finished the academy, got hired at Oxford, and then after a few months, I did my own workout stuff, and I was like, dude, my conditioning's not where it needs to be. I was honest with myself, and then I was super against CrossFit at the time. So against it. But again, no research. Just based on like what friends were saying and a little bit I thought I knew. And then Charles, who used to run the Turner Center and used to run the gym over there. That was another podcast. But I called him up because he was running the CrossFit gym. And I said, hey, my conditioning's terrible. What do y'all do over there? And he kind of just gave me a breakdown. He's like, all right, you can come on Sunday. Somebody will be here. So I walked in there and they said, what do you want to do? And I said, I can do Fran, because I looked it up. And I did Fran strict.
Hey, again, tell the audience what Fran is, because some people are not familiar with the CrossFit lingo.
So it's 21, 15, 9. You do 21 pull-ups, 21 thrusters. Actually, it's thrusters first, then pull-ups. And then 15, 15, 9, 9. And most people, if you're doing it to the standard, you will get it done in about 3.5 minutes or less. Mm-hmm. But world records are right under 2 minutes. And so I never thought about time. I had no idea. I just saw it. And I was like, well, I'm going to attack this like I do everything else, you know?
Full blown, baby.
So imagine a bodybuilder running a 1 mile race as fast as he can. Everything in his body is super tense. It's basically what happened. So I went super hard, did strict pull-ups. There was no kipping. There was no efficiency of movement. And I only did 15 pounds or 75 pounds on thrusters.
Because the RX weight's 95.
The RX weight's 95, yeah. And so I was full speed on the thrusters. First time doing a thruster. Mobility wasn't there. Efficiency was off. I finished. I was in the corner, like, breathing super hard. I went home and threw up. And I was like, all right, I'm coming back. It's like, I'm not good enough. I gotta improve on this. It's like, all right, I'm coming back. And then that's when I met CJ. And I realized that CJ was there, you know, most every day of the week. I started to learn his schedule a little bit. And then on Saturday, Sunday, he was there too at Open Gym. And Open Gym, if you're smart, you can get in there and get personal coaching. And so I basically told CJ, look, you're my coach. I'm coming in here. You don't have a choice. And every time we eventually got to where I was getting like free advice, we started lifting programs together and all this stuff. And that's when I was like, all right, this is it. And then we started from there, just going to CrossFit competitions. He was learning. If he looked back right now, I'd be like, CJ, you didn't know anything back then.
It was bad.
But I thought he did. And he did. He knew way more than me.
Yeah.
He knew way more than me. And so I was like, all right, my life's in your hands. And so he was learning a lot. I was learning a lot. And we were just growing together. We kept going, went through relationships together.
Yep.
He went through some before I went through some.
Yep.
He saw me making a lot of dumb decisions. I mean, going out with girls for no reason, the wrong reason,
Yep.
partying, all that. But he's never like, dude, you're terrible. Even though if we looked back, it's like he could have said that and that would have been fine.
Yep.
But he never was like, yeah, man, you need to stop doing this.
Yeah.
Because I never brought it up, probably because I didn't want him to say that. But, we lived together.
Right.
When the ownership changed at the gym, at that same gym, CJ showed up at the house on Sunday night. He was like, I need a place to stay. And I was like, come on.
Because I got
Because
fired.
it made me mad.
Yeah,
I'm very loyal to my people, and it
Yeah.
made me mad. I was like, you're with me now.
Yeah.
And I didn't go back. I went back one time, then I changed.
Yeah.
And so we met each other, did a lot of CrossFit together, went to competitions, everything, and did a lot of life together. And then I was at work here in Oxford at the fire department still, and it was just getting super toxic. Super toxic. It was affecting my working out. That's when I started losing my hair.
Yep.
I don't know if you can see it from there, but I started losing my hair then. And my mind was not in the right spot.
I remember that. It was really tough for you because you loved the fire department.
Yeah, because I was in the county where we did everything. Extrications, we fought fire, 40 a year. There's more than 40 a year still going on here.
Wow.
And so most people don't know it, though. And so we did all this stuff, and then I would go to the city, and none of that would happen. And so it was frustrating. And there was a huge, split. Everybody resented everybody from one department to the other and all this stuff. And so I was caught in the middle because I had friends on both sides, and I wanted more, but I was frustrated. And so I started reading. I started running a little bit, but that wasn't enough. And so I started reaching out, partying, and then trying to find girls, meet girls for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
And then it all just dead ended. And so I was like, all right, I got to get out of here.
Yep.
And took me 2 years to get at South Haven because I bought alcohol for Ryan back in the day.
Yep.
And there was a ticket, and I didn't pay it or something. Or I did pay it, which admitted guilt, but that kept me from getting on. And I think it was that one thing that sparked everything, because I was like, what? I was like, okay, now I'm seeing how this works. And so I went to the law office. I said, hey, what do we got to do to get this expunged?
Yep.
And they were like, oh, we do this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They were the first time that showed me if I put forth a little effort in the right direction that the system or things can work for you. And so they said, yeah, it's legally off your record now. Nobody can legally use this against you. And I was like, oh, so I can tell them that next time I go meet with them. And I did.
Wow.
And so I said, but when I met with them the next time, things were different. So in order for me to get out of Oxford Fire, I didn't have an EMT. And when you go to South Haven, EMT is like a standard.
It's like necessary.
If
you have to.
they want you to already have your 1001, already have all this other stuff. So I was like, well, I can't start EMT because I'm in school. We work 3 or 4 nights a week, 24 hours at a time. So I said, what if we just got Northwest to teach it here? So I started asking people, and this guy was like, I tried it before, but it didn't work. And I said, why? He said, I couldn't get enough people to do it. I said, all right, I can convince most people to do just about whatever. So
Yeah.
I called the guy up at Northwest. I said, hey, what's it going to take for you to teach here once a week, EMT? He said, I'm going to need 9 people that'll pay their own way and show up to class. And I was like, all right, that's half of the problem. So I had to convince the chief. At the time, we didn't run medical. We got no extra stipend for doing medical stuff, to let us go to class once a week for something that was not going to help us stay there. If anything, these people were going to be able to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And also for them to pay their own way, and for us to miss certain calls and things like that. You have to move people around.
Right.
He said, yeah, that's fine.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, God's really looking out for me again. I said, okay. So we did that. I convinced them of that. And then halfway through that class is when I was going through South Haven again. And when I went up there, I said, I'm in a class that I started, and you can't use this against me, and it's already taken care of. So now you have to make a decision without thinking about any of that. I've solved those problems.
Right.
Because I was talking to this guy this time, because before he was trying to catch me in something, and I said, look, I don't have nothing to lose now.
Nope.
So it's on you.
Yeah.
Now you're interviewing. I'm interviewing you
Right.
for this job. It's 2 ways. It's not one.
Yep.
And so got a phone call, got the job, and I finished it at Senatobia. And then we were still, you were doing ID Fitness at that time, kind of
Yeah,
starting
just started
up.
opening up. Yep.
Yeah, and because I've been up there for 6 years now, 7.
Yeah,
And you've had that going the whole time.
Yep.
And I moved up there, still kept making bad decisions because one problem was solved, but not the other.
Right.
There was still those outlets that were there. Mm-hmm. So, you know, Tinder and all the other garbage.
Yep.
It's a waste of time. And so just finding people in the wrong crowds. And then eventually I was like, all right, I'm done. I got to find something else. So I went to Pine Lake here, the church here, before I left. And I kind of liked the setup. You know, it was online. Everybody was there. I met a guy at work and I said, where do you go to church? Because they were openly talking about God at work. And like, I was like, okay.
It's different.
I was like, okay, let's go. And so
Was it different than Oxford from that?
light years away.
Okay.
It was black and white. And so we were there and he said, I go to Compel. And I was like, cool. And I was like, what's it like? He described it. It sounded just like Pine Lake. 4 campuses on the screen, sometimes in person. Went in there, met people that have changed my life forever, like family now.
Right.
And so that started, kept going. And then, you know, met my wife there. We have a baby now, all that stuff.
Wow.
And then while I'm doing that, you know, me and you are still connected
The whole time.
the whole time talking about everything, you know. And I would always call CJ when he started his gym and remind him. I would just call him randomly and say, hey, you don't have to coach CrossFit classes anymore. You own your own gym. And so I was always bragging on CJ the whole time because he would never do it because he's humble. I was like, I'll do it for you. And so I would always say that stuff. But yeah, there was a lot of stuff between the time we met and now that has helped me see things completely different.
Yeah.
God's changed my heart. He's changed the way I pursue things, the way I do everything. And so the person I was then to now is completely different. But you've been a part of that journey, and I've been a part of your journey too. Mm-hmm. And we've done stuff, you know, with our churches in 2 different locations, but we've grown together for so long.
Man.
And so, but yeah, there's anything from mindset to diet to training to learning to any of that it's all in there.
Yep.
So I mean, we can dive into whatever you want to dive into first, and I'll kind of tell you where it is in that story so they can know, you know.
Yeah, that was a really good description of your story. One thing that you missed that I was super impressed with how you handled it and how you helped your family guide through that process is when your brother passed away.
Yeah.
So I got the privilege to just kind of be with you on that journey. It was super sad. And walk through how you went through that, the boundaries you went through.
So the time that when that happened was, I don't know the exact years, a couple years ago. I was dating somebody at the time, and it was completely toxic, and there was manipulation. There was a lot going on, but if I look at myself, you know, I'm not blaming myself or her, but if I ask myself, if I'm honest, why were you doing that? I would say, for the physical part.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to be sit here and sugarcoat it.
Right.
That's straight up. And it was a little bit of that same situation. I was trying to find, you know, something to fill that void. You know, work was going great, but there were still those other vices that were out there.
Yeah.
And so it got toxic. It got manipulative. It got really hard to navigate that. And so that was going on. And my brother had struggled with, you know, narcotics abuse and stuff for a couple of years. He was back and forth. Well, he met this girl, and so she realized what he had because he lived with my parents. If you know my parents, they're awesome.
Yeah,
and so she met them, and she automatically was like, well, I don't date anybody that does drugs. You know, I'm going to play the part. And so she said that. Long story short, you know, for whatever reason, she moved in with him at my parents' house. And then he was doing good. He would always go up and down and back and forth, but
I remember that.
His heart was always good, and he always wanted to do better. Mm-hmm. But he was a huge people pleaser too.
Right.
And so, well, once she got her claws in, that's who he wanted to please. She was stealing money from him and all this stuff. We didn't find out until later.
Holy cow!
Right. So me and him were on good terms at the time. I'm thankful for that, for sure. We had great conversations about God and everything.
Yeah.
And so, get a call one day while I'm at work. Hey, your brother's on the way to the Baptist DeSoto. They found him overdosed, yada, yada, yada. I told the guys I left. So I go up there. He's in the ER. He had coded like 9 times before, which means his heart was not beating 9 times.
I'm glad you clarified that because a lot of people don't know what that means.
Yeah. So he did that 9 times on the way to the hospital and a few more times while he was there.
Wow.
And so my parents had to watch and all this stuff. And
I remember you calling me.
I knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do every day.
Exactly. Because you help bring people back to life. Like you shoot them back up.
Like when they do drugs, when they have a heart attack, when whatever reason, if they're not breathing, they call us and we get there and we go to the hospital. And 9 times out of 10, we know how it's going to go. We don't
Right.
say anything to anybody, but we know.
Yeah.
And so I kind of knew, but the girl that was in there worked for us. And so she was telling me, and so the doctors come in and they're like, okay, he's in the ICU now. And well, long story short, the way he fell down, it was like he was kneeling but fell straight down.
Oh, no.
So he was cutting circulation off
his
for like
legs.
8 hours.
Holy cows.
And so he had compartment syndrome from here down. So eventually his legs got amputated.
Because he fell like in the kneeling, like a prayer
Yeah,
position, right?
almost like a prayer position, but straight down, sitting on his ankles.
Okay.
So he had compartment syndrome, and that's where the lactic acid builds up, and there's nothing you can do about it. Because if it's in the leg, you can cut it off. If it's in the arm, you can cut it off, and it doesn't kill you. But they amputated both legs, and it was still here.
Oh my gosh.
And so at that point, we were like, okay, that's it. And so while that was going on, I was still dating this person. But at that time, there was, everything was neutral. Everything was fine.
Right.
2 weeks later, I'm obviously dealing with this. I start crying.
Right.
And she's there to kind of comfort because I was at her house. But like 2 weeks later after that, I'm just having a bad day. And I tell her that. And she's like, well, I'm not here to comfort. I'm not here for that. And I was like, wait, 1 + 1 ain't adding up right now. I can think pretty clearly that doesn't add up. And so that's kind of the point that triggered me. A week later after that or so, I met CJ up here and he's like, how's it going? And I just told him the truth, but I didn't even let it all out. I just let it halfway out. And CJ was like, dude, you got to cut that off.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, I didn't want to.
Right.
And then I halfway did. And then he was like, you got to cut that off.
Yeah.
Like his words didn't change. He was like, that's what I said. That's what I don't mean like halfway, like end it.
Like sever it.
And yeah, because it's not good for either one of you. Mm-mm. And so eventually I did. And man, God, it felt so much better.
Yeah.
Huge weight lifted off. I could see things. I could do things better. It was just clear. And so after that, like a year or two later, a friend of mine, a really close friend, Talon, his brother.
That was so crazy.
His brother went through the same exact thing. He was at a facility that would let people come in with drug issues and they would rehabilitate them, and it was Christian based, but it was not professional in my opinion because of the way things ended up. I don't remember the name of it, but the way it ended up was he was there and he messed up. He had alcohol one night or something. And so they were like, you can either go to jail or we can drop you off somewhere. And I'm like, okay, one thing is taking him to jail. That's fine. Why would you take a drug addict or an addict of anything out to the streets? And so they did that. They dropped him off somewhere. Well, somebody else that was an addict knew where he was. They found him dead the next day.
Oh no.
He didn't do drugs. He just drank.
So
They found him dead the next day. No money, no wallet, nothing. And so I'm like, why would you do that to somebody? There's a bunch of reasons they can answer, but it's like common sense tells you that doesn't make any sense.
Wow.
And so we were like, so we all looked at it very differently at that point. And so, but that happened at the same time, and we were able to walk with them because my parents and his parents are very close. Mm-hmm. They're in a group at church together, and we were able to walk with them through that. And it was very hard for a while. And so, but it made us all closer, and we were able to go through it with each other and tell other people about it. But yeah, that all happened. I was at South Haven for a little bit, probably 3 years in, when that happened. And then, yeah, me and my parents weren't able to talk about it though, face to face, openly, like we are right now, for about a year and a half. And then we sat down one day and it just came out. And we were just like, yeah, I would have done this when I was younger. They were like, you know what? Because it all started with a friend of his dad. We lived in Bridgetown. You lived in Bridgetown, man. It was like the place to be. You could leave your bike outside. You can go fish in somebody's backyard.
Yeah.
You could do anything. And so they rode to the other side of the town, or subdivision, and his dad gave him drugs. And we're like, we didn't find this out for years.
Oh, no.
He gave him drugs, and we didn't know. They don't know. They're in 8th grade at the time.
Right.
So they're, doing this stuff, and that leads to other issues going on. They said...
so that's where it started.
Yeah. Now, I think my parents alluded to they found out about some of that stuff. I don't know exactly, but, they found out about some of it. They said, if we can go back in time, of course, hindsight's 20/20. They said we would have protected y'all from stuff that was halfway bad, but not all the way bad. Oh, they drink? Cool, you're not going over there. There's no need for that. There's no sense of chance in it. We don't know what else they do. We don't know how they talk. We don't know how they live their life. We don't know what their worldviews are. So, like, they said we would have protected y'all and not felt bad about it at all. And so, just learning that stuff, it's like, okay, you see where this stuff leads. I know how I'm going to raise Katie to not, like, you're not going to get a chance to do any of that if I can control it. You know?
Oh yeah.
So, but all of it's led to a better worldview, a better view of myself and others, like a clearer view of like, hey, you know, there's hurting people out there. Is somebody hurting?
Yeah.
Are they lashing out? You know, stuff like that.
Wow. I did not know that that Talon's brother got dropped off like that.
Oh, dude, it was bad. His parents lost it.
I bet. I mean, that's
And it's not because, hey, he overdosed. Because parents that deal with it for so long, they know in the back of their mind that's an option.
Yeah.
But I mean, they don't want that.
Right.
They had accepted that first, but then how much of it was his fault? You know, that is what they really were mad about. And so, but they had conversations there with lawyers and stuff. So,
and it just too is kind of going back to your other point. It is very common for a family to not talk about a death of a sibling or a son or a daughter for a period of time.
Yeah.
Because that's part of the grieving stages. And so, so if you guys are out there and you guys have a family member that passed away or somebody that's really, really close to your family that felt like family, that process will naturally come. And if it does, sometimes you do have to kind of force that conversation.
And me and my parents have always been an open book since day one.
Yeah.
Like literally anything. Since 9th grade, they said, ask us whatever you want, whenever you want, we'll give you an answer.
Yeah.
And so not everybody has that.
Right.
And so my wife didn't have that growing up. They all, to this day, will bury their head in the sand. So much so that when you're around them, they're even quiet.
Yeah.
And so...
Because there's more of like tighten your bootstraps up and just get over it, right? Or...
that they're more tighten your bootstraps up, don't even bring it up.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so, but she has gotten out of that. She's been going to therapy. She's been talking to psychiatrists. She's been doing things. And she is completely different than who she was just a few years ago. So,
right.
But
yeah, that's awesome. So how did you meet your wife?
So I met her at church. This is after my brother passed away, after Talon's brother passed away. I'm at work, and in the back of my mind, I'm doing a lot of the right things. I'm going to church. I have a huge community. I'm serving. I'm a youth pastor at the time.
We read the book Boundaries. Remember that?
Yeah, we did. We did. I even got the podcast, I think. And so me and CJ were always talking about stuff because we were in the back of our mind. We're both looking.
Yeah.
If you're a young adult male, you're looking. Period.
Naturally.
And, yeah. And so, or you're a robot, right?
Or you're watching a whole bunch of pornography.
Exactly. And hey, we made those mistakes.
Yes.
And so this is kind of crazy. So me and Sarah both got to a spot in our lives where we had never met each other. Okay, during COVID for 2 years at the church, I was there every Sunday. We had a huddle every morning. I was there, and everybody that's serving comes out for the huddle. You pray, you talk about what's going on for the day, you high five, and you go on. Well, everybody that's there is in the huddle. Doesn't matter where you serve. She served in the nursery, but you're still out there. For 2 years, I didn't see her. Now that's a God thing, because I know everybody in that church. There's not one person that serves somewhere that I do not know.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious.
I was on staff, so I knew her. I knew everybody. Now, if you have somebody serving on the weekend, just every now and then, that campus, I may not see him every now and then, but I will see you eventually.
Right.
Because I'm there every Sunday, all the time.
Yeah, you were there a lot.
So for 2 years, I didn't see her. And I'm like, what? You've been serving in the nursery? She goes, yeah, I've been here. And she was at the huddles. And there's not 20, 30 people at these huddles.
Yeah.
And you know people.
Yeah.
So for 2 years, I didn't see her. God was like, it's not time.
Yeah.
But we both got to a spot in our lives where we're like, you know what? I want to be with you, with God, with Christ in the right way more than I want a relationship. And we had to say it. That's easy. Anybody can say anything.
Right.
But then we had to live it and say, you know what, I don't care. And every time you go meet with friends and hang out and they're young, it's like, all right, I don't care who's coming. Let's just go hang out.
Yep.
And so we both got to that spot before we met each other. And so the night that I met her, it was like a once-a-month service. And I met her at church. It's really busy. All 4 campuses come together. We have 3,000 on a weekend, so there's a bunch that come in there. And so the lady that kind of runs that campus said, "Hey, I got somebody I want you to meet." Well, the way she introduced me to her, I was like, "Are you trying to set us up right now? Because it feels really awkward." I'm like, because one of my friends was there, and she'll tell you the same thing. So she goes, "Yeah, this is Sarah. She does yoga, and she serves in kids, and she was talking about me with CrossFit and working out in the fire department, all this stuff." And I'm like, "You don't say that if you're just introducing somebody."
You're right. You give her a whole
She
bio.
goes, and then we went and talked to her after. She goes, "No, I wasn't." And so I met her, and this is really crazy. And so this is something that's not normal. The way I thought about women for so long, the first thing I did is like, okay, what do you look like?
Right.
Oh, you're attractive. And then lust takes over.
Right.
And so then when that takes over, that's the only way you see them. That's
Yep.
what you care about and
You
all
objectify them.
that.
Yep.
You go, oh, you go to church and you're hot.
Right.
Okay, well, we got to get married then.
Right.
No. And so when I saw her, I didn't think about any of those things.
Right.
I didn't think, oh, physically, like, oh my gosh, I'm in love with you physically.
Right.
Like, I was like, first I was taken off by the trying to set us up situation. So I told her, I was like, hey, you can sit in here with us if you want to.
Right.
And so we went to service, and then I didn't look at her like that.
Right.
I just was like, not telling myself anything. I was like, I just didn't look at her like that.
Right.
And so I was obviously interested.
Right.
And so on Instagram,
Because she was very curious, because she was very conservative of how she approached you. She wasn't like most of the girls that approach you. So she was kind of,
Yeah.
it was almost like a mystery.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, where have you been? I've never seen you.
Yeah.
And so I messaged her on Instagram because I didn't have her phone number. And so she messaged me back. I eventually got her number. We talked for 2 weeks. Eventually it was text every day.
Yeah.
Then it was call every night.
Yeah.
For 2 weeks.
Right.
It was kind of a flow. And then on a Monday night, she goes, well, you know, she served with us a little bit in students, because that's all I did. And she hung out with us. And that's a huge out of our comfort zone, like not in her wheelhouse at all.
Right.
And so she goes, hey, you know, if you're trying to get me connected to the church and serving, that's great. You've done a great job. But if there's more to it, then we need to either move on or just be friends.
Mm.
And I was like, all right, let's go on a date Friday or Thursday. It's Monday. And she started laughing. And I was like, yeah, there's more to it.
Yeah.
You know, more interested in you than just this.
Yeah.
So Thursday night I cooked dinner at her house. Friday night I was over there again. Saturday we were official.
Yeah.
And like after that it was just obvious. And so yeah, it was the easiest thing. Like we didn't have to act like anything or anything like that. I didn't put her looks on a pedestal to make me go over here and do these things or any of that. It was wild how much we had in common. Like
Yep.
we even played chess together.
Yeah.
And chess is a lost art. Nobody does that anymore. And we played chess together. She learned a little bit, and it was fun. I was like, this is wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about, so we'll go to the mental toughness side.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about your smoke diver
Okay. So,
experience, and explain what smoke diver is, because a lot of people don't know what that is.
Smoke diver is in the fire service. The only way I can really explain it to where people understand it is, and I'm not trying to be cocky if you are the fire service at all, it is kind of like the Navy SEALs of firefighter stuff. There's a bunch of smoke divers in the country, a bunch of different, like Florida puts one on, Georgia puts one on, Texas, like those are, and then Mississippi. And they're all done to a kind of different standard. Some you learn more, some you have to do more practical things. But Mississippi is all about you're either going to make it or die. Mm-hmm. And so, kind of the motto. And so I had heard about it for years, never thought about it. Well, I'm up there at South Haven, and one of my friends, Brooks, he came from the military, but he likes to work out. And what he does, he likes to work out really hard because he doesn't work out on his days off. But he's in pretty good shape.
Oh, yeah, he is.
And so we're sitting up there one day, and I have friends that go through it. And so what it is it's 4 days, and you're in your gear the entire day. The only time you get to get out is if you complete an evolution. Now, in the morning, on Monday, you get there, you do a physical. It's a 1.5 mile run, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, but nothing very, very hard. If we did that here, it'd be the equivalent to a warm-up with a longer run. Everything was timed. You had to get so many pull-ups, push-ups, 1.5 miles in like 11, 12 minutes, all this good stuff. And then in the afternoon, you have 4 evolutions to do, 4 things to do. And there are runs in the heat house. And so you put your gear on, your full gear.
So what's the heat house?
The heat house is a three and a half story building with basically, imagine a queen size bed that catches on fire. They have one of those in every room. There's burn props in every room. It gets over 700-800 degrees at your head. They turn those on and they cycle the heat. They get it really hot because they know how to keep it from the sensor from going off. So they cycle it, right? They get it really, really hot. They can even steam it up if they want to. And so your goal on each one of these solutions is to either search the floor, find the victims, put the fire out, some version of that. And it's very strict. If you can go in on your left hand on the wall, you have to come out on your right. And so they have cameras in there. They can see everything that you do. So if I go on this side of the wall, he goes on that side, we're done. But they don't tell you till you're done. Until you get out and you say,
so you can fail, but then
you
you're
can
saying,
search an entire floor, put 4 fires out, get 3 victims out, and they can say fail. And they're not going to tell you why. And so I knew that. Brooks had went the year before, and he made it to Tuesday. Well, most people don't make it past Wednesday night. Thursday's your last day. Because after Monday, there's 4 evolutions in the morning on Tuesday, 4 in the afternoon, and you get 4 attempts at each. Sometimes on Tuesday night, you don't get back till 10 or 11 o'clock at night. You start at 8 in the morning.
wow.
You get 30 minutes or an hour for lunch. And so it's the same thing Wednesday. The hardest evolutions are on Wednesday night.
Oh, man.
And then it's a little bit of that stuff Thursday, but by then it doesn't matter.
So what's the hardest thing? Is it water? Is it food? Is it sleep? Like, for all of it?
So the first night, Sunday night, we get there, and I'm like, almost, it's hard to sleep. My mind's going.
Right.
Almost have like a panic attack.
Yeah.
And I go in there and I pray and breathing exercises, calm back down, wake up in the morning. We had already planned everything out. If you know anything about me, I'm going to plan.
Oh, yeah, you're planning.
We're gonna plan it down as much as we possibly can.
Yep.
And so we brought our own microwave. We did all that stuff. And so we did hydration. I would have done it different looking at it now, but we actually did a pretty good job.
Right.
And so what the Navy SEALs did is they took chia seeds and you put them in water overnight and they swell up really big.
I remember you telling me you did that.
And the Navy SEALs and Special Forces, they do that, and then you drink them, and they get down into the intestines and all that good stuff, and you have absorption there too. And so it's like a delayed absorption, so you have really good hydration. And so, because the one thing we want to make sure we're doing is using the bathroom. Number 1, number 2. As long as you're still doing that, you're good.
Right.
And so, the first day, like, we get to that run. And as soon as he hits his watch, I hit mine, and we did our time. And he was telling us how much time we had left each lap. And I had mine exactly synced to his. I said, Brooks, we're good. We're exactly synced.
Yeah.
I said, when I slow down, just follow me.
Right.
We were not going to exert any extra effort unless we had to.
I remember one time you were talking about that. You're just like, what Brooks basically kind of brought up was they're just going too hard too long because they're thinking it's only a 1-day competition. Like Rich Froning, if anybody knows about Rich Froning, the CrossFit Games, the guy who's won, what is it, 5 times or 6 times? Or
he won, I think it's like 10 times total.
Okay.
He won 4 as an individual in a row.
Yeah.
And then he won like 5 or 6 as a team.
And that was one of his big statements was a lot of those guys who go in there think that they have to give 100% of their effort the first day of the CrossFit Games, and you will not survive because it's 3-4 days events.
And that night was the worst I felt after every day that night because it was a shock. And so we get there, we do our run, good to go. We do our lunch, we come back. Me and him are kind of nervous. We get our first evolution. We go to the top floor, and they said search all 3 floors, clear every room, and let us know when you get done. They told us you can take a victim out, any door that you find, stuff like that. So 3 rooms, and when you search, you're searching on your hands and knees. You're not walking.
Because it's too hot to stand, right?
Well, that and that's not typical practice when you go to a structure fire, like a house fire. You're crawling because you can see more on the ground and it's cooler down there.
Okay.
So, but you can stand if you've searched that area before. Like if it's clear and you've stood on it, well, it's brick. You can, but they just want to know that you're doing the right thing. So we took it a step further. We vocalized because we knew they were in the room. So we would search, and then we would say, this room's clear. I mean, I would literally, if they were in there, I'd tell them. I was like, we ain't here to make friends. We're here to get this done.
Right.
And so we were yelling so loud in there that they were like, yeah, we knew what y'all were doing the whole time.
Wow.
And so we cleared every room. I still had 1,000 pounds of air left, which is
Holy
half my
cow.
bottle, which is half a bottle. You only get half a tank anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So your bottle's they give you 2216, but it'll say like 30 on there.
Right.
And that's just thousands of pounds, but they fill it up to 2216. So I only used half of that. And so most of the time people run out of air. They fail because they can't find the dummies. They get off pattern, something simple.
Right.
Or they can't find their way out. And so we did all that. First one, knocked it out. We went to the second one. This is the one that most people fail on. We failed it the first time because we had planned one way, but it was a different way. The dummy was bigger and harder to pick up. And so we wasted half our energy. And
Trying to get it the other way.
We had to carry this 180-pound dummy on our shoulders up 5 flights of stairs back down.
Oh, man.
And then the air wasn't a problem. It was coordination.
Right.
And so we failed it, went back over there, took a break, and we're like, all right, we got to figure this out. Well, he's like, dude, give me a minute. I'm really hurting.
Mm-hmm.
And so this guy and his partner failed it. Well, this guy broke his ankle.
What? At the thing?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
my gosh.
His partner had to go with somebody else, and I was like, if we're going to have anybody, this is fine. So we took him.
Mm-hmm.
He helped us. We barely got it done because the communication with 3 people is hard if you don't
Really
know,
hard.
if you don't know anybody. And so we did that with him. We had to go back and do the first one again because that guy hadn't done it yet.
Oh, no.
So here we are. We've done 2 evolutions, but we got to go back and do the first one again.
Yeah.
So we're about to be 3 in. So we did the third one. We did it. We were like, dude, you stay in the middle of us. You don't move. So if he stays in the middle, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
We passed it. He did not know how to search to save his life, though. And then we did 2 more. We ended up failing once. We did 5 evolutions the first day
Wow.
instead of 4. I felt terrible that night.
I bet.
We had to learn how to do IVs before we went. Tuesday night we did those.
So you guys gave yourselves IVs?
Yeah, we had to learn how to. We learned it at work before we went.
Yeah.
We weren't the best at it, but it worked.
Right.
Wednesday night, Brooks tried to give me one, but he was falling asleep because he was so tired.
So tired, yeah.
And you're going to cramp when you get down there. It's just how bad and when. We cramped on Tuesday night some, but it wasn't too bad. But the chia seeds, we got to where we had Pedialyte, water, and chia seeds, and at one point we were just literally dumping everything we had in one thing. We didn't care what it tasted like. We were just like
Just jugging it, yeah.
We didn't care.
Yeah.
And so we had everything. There was 2 different cooler sections. Like you can have your food and stuff over here when you get done. If you get done in time, you can go eat. The other one is hydration, and I had caffeine as a backup.
Right.
And I only use it if I needed it.
Right.
Wednesday night we needed it. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're getting Wednesday night. You got to get 2 dummies up to the scuttle hole, but the scuttle holes, it's probably as big as that right there, maybe. And you got to get a ladder in there.
So we're like 3 feet wide, 4 feet wide?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you have a ladder, and you go down to the first floor. But down on the first floor in that room next to the prop stays on the entire time. The only time they
What's the prop?
The prop is like a huge oven with that completely engulfs in flame and turns on to get everything hot.
So it gets heavy. Okay, got
It
it.
gets hot. I mean, it was 700 degrees at our head, and I'm 5'5".
Holy cow.
Yeah. And so we get down there.
And you have your gear on.
Oh, yeah.
And how much does your gear weigh?
Gear weighs 50, 60 pounds.
Okay.
So, like, I did a CrossFit workout. I did, we had to do burpees and I think dumbbell snatches. I went light on the dumbbell snatches, but I did it with just my coat and my pants on. And I hyperventilated because I went too fast.
Wow.
Because of heat. Your body gets hotter than what you have. If there's 3 gears, when you put gear on, you have to go first gear.
Yeah.
You don't ever get to third.
Hmm.
And so we get to that evolution. First dummy is a hose dummy. Basically, just throw him up there. Well, the second one's the big one we had coming up those stairs on Tuesday. He's like 180 pounds. And the problem when you get him up there is he starts swinging and hitting the aluminum ladder. So we failed it the first time. We had another guy with us. This guy's about to pass out the second time.
Right.
And we eventually got it done. But some of the hardest stuff is the stuff they don't tell you about. Like they give you this 3-inch hose, and 3-inch hose is extremely heavy. It's all in 50-foot sections, and it depends. You have a nozzle on the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's different nozzles and stuff that can make it harder to handle. So a 3-inch hose
Just because the
is
pressure?
about as big around as that water bottle.
Is it because the pressure of the nozzles?
It's the pressure
Okay.
and the nozzle. And so the way it disperses. Like
Okay.
so, a fog nozzle is like really big and not a lot of pressure. A smooth bore is like solid. There's no friction
shooting.
loss, and it is coming out hot. So
Yeah.
we had a fog nozzle, but it's a 3-inch line. You're looking, that line will put out 1,200 gallons a minute,
Wow.
and 1 3/4 inches for 2 people is some work.
Yeah.
So you're doubling that size. It's like literally this big around. And they said, okay, y'all 2 on the line. You got to fight this huge trough fire, which is about the size of an 18-wheeler half of an 18-wheeler. You got to fight it.
Right.
Well, they control the fire. If they want it to stay on, it's going to stay on. If they want it to go out and cut back on, they can do that. They said, keep fighting this fire until we tell you to stop. Don't let the nozzle hit the ground. And, that's it.
Yeah.
And they just start yelling. So we go pick up this line.
Now, what are they yelling at? You just trying to confuse you?
Oh, yeah. What are you doing? Why are you here? You get to work. Your partner's doing all the work. And I'm like, dude, I'm already tired. I don't give a crap what you're saying. Like, I'm already focused on him.
Right.
So, like, tell me what to do or step out of the way is what I'm thinking. So I don't really care. So we pick up this line. We go back to back. We'd already worked on some of this. But the problem was, it doesn't matter if you are the biggest, baddest. It don't matter if Rich Froning and Jason Khalipa walked out there. Because the goal is, their standard is, we're going to make you do this until you run out of air or until we're satisfied.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they were satisfied when we got done because it was the hardest thing I did that week.
Right.
We get there, we go back to back, we're locked in, and then they say, you got to move the line. So we have to move. We're like, okay, we can do that. Then the thing that you actually never do, you would never do this in real life, they say, you're going to swap positions without cutting the nozzle off.
Oh.
So
Especially with that pressure.
One person has to hold it. Well, I'm super light. I may be able to hold up a whole
Tell
lot
them
of
how
weight.
much you weigh.
I only weigh 163. So I may be able to pick up a lot of weight or move a lot of weight, but like, I don't have any leverage when it comes to this stuff. I have to lean all the way over, and I cannot advance it. So usually if I was going to use this on scene, I'd be on a knee, right? But this is smoke diver, so you have to stand up. And we went to swap, and I was like, Brooks, this is terrible. We're holding it up. Well, this is probably the funniest part of the whole week because somehow we get to where we have to swap multiple times.
Yeah.
Because our little plan didn't work. Because I was gonna go first so we could last longer because I was better on air and none of that matters. And so at one point I'm pretty tired. It's hard to hold the nozzle because the hose wants to push this way.
Yep.
And you have to pull back against
Pull back. Yep.
But you have gloves on. And if you got little hands, your hands just got smaller. So you cannot grip.
Oh, wow.
If you got big hands, you can grip, but not that good.
Right.
Right. And so it's like trying to grab one of those Nalgene bottles with gloves on, like thick gloves. Oh. And it's wet.
Oh, no.
You can't grab it.
Yeah.
And so you have to use leverage, and you're really bearing down. And so at one point, I go up against him. Well, on your helmets, you have a little clip, right? Mm-hmm. And it makes your helmet, it'll make it fall off.
Right.
Right? Because there's a strap in the back, and there's a clip. You cinch that clip down. Well, we're banging up against each other the whole time, doing everything we can to survive. I don't know how this happened, but when it happened, I knew it happened. So there's 5 instructors, and they're yelling about every little thing. Well, I'm up against him, and somehow that clip turns sideways, hits my face, and unclips. My helmet falls off.
Oh, no.
So first part, I thought, okay, we're going to have to repeat.
Yeah.
My heart just sinks. I'm like, Brooks doesn't even see what's going on back here.
Yeah.
And so I pick it up and put it back on, and they're freaking out. And I was like, I was able to clip it back. I have no idea how I did that.
Yeah.
And so we just kept going, and we passed. I looked at Brooks. I said, because he felt better than I did because he's heavier. He's a little stronger. He's bigger.
And you didn't see that your helmet fell off?
Till later. He was like, what are you doing back there? I was like, dude, just give me a minute. And so we swap again. Now, by this time, I'm freaking tired.
Yeah.
Something happened to where when we swapped, they made him go back and grab the hose, so I was all by myself.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, the goal was keep working and the nozzle doesn't hit the ground. Well, somehow it slipped, and I reached for it and grabbed it like this. The nozzle's spraying right here, and I'm like on my back. I said, the nozzle ain't hit the ground yet.
Nope.
And they said, what are you doing? I said, the nozzle can't hit the ground. It fell. I was like, I'm not letting go. My helmet's already fell off. I'm not letting go.
Yeah.
And so Brooks turns around. He's like, what are you doing over there? He's like, get up. I was like, I can't. We couldn't cut it off. So he gets up. We get up. And we finally
163 pounds, Brooks.
Dude. And so we finally get done with it.
Tell him how big Brooks is.
Brooks is probably like closer to 200.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so.
And he's like 6 foot?
Yeah, probably right at it. So we eventually get done with that. And dude,
That's crazy.
It was wild.
So let's go into this now. So talk about Smoke Diver and how crazy that is. And it's basically like
So out of, I think, 1,500 people that have gone, only 120 have passed.
Yep. So they give you context. So it's a big deal.
If you have a class of 20, you're only looking at like 2 to 4 passing.
Yeah.
There's only been one class with 1, but that was a long time ago. They changed the rules. People get rhabdo. People leave in ambulances all the time, whether it's something broken, dehydration, rhabdo. I mean, most people don't come back.
Right.
because they push too hard. And so, but we used the same methodology we use when we train. Like he started training with you, but we
Yep.
just did the basic lifts: back squat, deadlift, bench press, pull up.
Because you got to be
And-
strong
Yeah, you just got to be strong at moving equipment and doing
and
practical
moving
things.
slow
Yes.
and having a plan, like you said.
Yeah, and so I said, look, man, we're not going to this every day just randomly. We're gonna have days where we do more
Just
intense
enough
stuff.
work.
We're gonna take off our gear. We're gonna go fast. We're gonna take off everything. We're gonna put half our gear on. We're gonna do all this, and so on top of that, you have to do dressing drills within a certain amount of time each day. And so you have to put gloves, a hood, a helmet, a mask, boots, pants, all that, and be breathing air in under a minute. You have to
Wow.
do it 3 times in a row, or you repeat.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Then you have to do a bottle swap on Thursday. So I'm doing the bottle swap, and Thursday's the last day. We're going cruise control. Well, I'm doing the bottle swap. We got another guy on our team, and I look up, and my gloves aren't in there. It's a different set of gloves that I had that were huge. And the fastest way to do it was with your gloves on.
Yeah.
These things were wet, and it was like, dude, I was putting my hands in there, and the hands were all moved out of the way.
Oh, my
so I'm
God.
putting a bottle on, and dude, it was so hard.
Miserable.
I had to do it like 3 times or 4 times. It was more than that. It was a lot. It was frustrating. They were like, come on, dude. I was like, dude, we're good. I got it.
Yeah.
It took me forever. So terrible.
Talk a little bit about the misconceptions of strength. I mean, you talk about this a lot.
Mhm.
So just to give you guys context, when I first met Porter, he was roughly lifting around 275 pounds for his deadlift. He's now pulling over 500 pounds on his deadlift, and his body weight's 165 pounds.
It's Coach Man. It's Coach Man.
And the misconception is that you have to do a lot of exercises,
Yeah.
short amount of rest for some reason, and do burnout sets.
Yeah.
Right. And so just to kind of give you guys a little insight of what he did to get this strong, so that way he can do smoke diver and get to some of these goals he want at his size. He sometimes would rest 5 to 10 minutes between sets
Yeah.
And
Like,
maybe
get on
only-
my phone and wait.
and wait. And so talk a little bit about that journey, because people think that you have to have like
Yeah.
this incredible program, but talk about what you've learned and how we learned together about
So
this.
I wanted to do all the cool CrossFit programming when it first came out, when it was first big, a long time ago. This is before Froning stuff. This is early on, like OPEX, before OPEX was OPEX.
Right.
I was like, yeah, I want to do all that cool stuff. And CJ was like, that's not going to get you better.
Yeah.
Like, it's fun,
Yeah.
but it's not going to get you better. And so we realized that strength was an issue for competitions and stuff. So we started doing weightlifting programming.
Yep.
And when you do, so Olympic weightlifters have weightlifting figured out. They stay at the same weight, but they get stronger. That's awesome.
Yep.
So they're not gaining any fat. They're gaining muscle. They're gaining
Right.
strength. And they're like, oh, it's all in diet. No, it's how you train.
Yep.
And so they only do a couple lifts anyway.
Right.
And so we started doing that. Numbers started coming up. Started getting more consistent. And then we went to it at one point. I was like, all right, dude, I want more volume.
Yep.
I want more. Give it to me. And he's like, all right, I'm gonna give it to you. And if it's too much, tell me.
Right.
I said, bring it on.
Mm-hmm.
We did it one time. My deadlift went from like 400 to 425.
Yep. Off one, what was it, 16 week cycle?
It was one cycle, 16 weeks. Yeah.
Okay.
And we just did basic stuff.
And we actually stole that from Matthew Frazier.
Yeah.
Because I listened to a podcast that he did, and that's what really sparked me. I was just like, oh, it's even simpler than I thought. And then I run into this Russian guy. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to do all the sexy stuff here and there. And most people, when they go to the gym, they want to do a bodybuilder workout, but do endurance athlete conditioning. It's
That
like,
is so true.
you're not a runner. Why are you running after you just did that? Are you a double athlete? Because that's a new thing out now. Like what's it called? Where they run
hybrid athlete.
Yeah, hybrid athlete. It's like, I mean, that's cool, but you're making your body choose. Like, you're making it really hard for you to get stronger.
Yep.
And so what most people don't realize is if you get stronger, you get faster.
Yep.
We did that. Like, my mile time went down after my back squat went
And
up.
you didn't even run.
No, I did not even run. I haven't been doing snatches for 16 weeks. My snatch number is still the same.
Yep.
It's still the same.
And you actually, when you did your snatch, you felt like, dude, I felt easy on that one. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't like all out effort.
Right. Yeah. If you just sit in there and go, okay, I'm going to lift, because you have to go up in volume, whether it's the number of reps, sets, whatever, or the weight.
Yep. Tell them what you did.
or
That's,
both.
I'm glad that you said
And
that, because
so-
a lot of people don't know that.
So we did-
Explain how that works.
So we did back squat on Monday.
Just talk about
pull-ups.
back squat so it's easy. So
Back squat.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first week is 4 sets of 8. It's about 70 to 75%. You can go closer to 80 on your first cycle if you
Just
want.
depend on who you are.
Depending on who you are. Or if you got a coach manual, I'll tell you what to do. 70 to 75% is all you're going to want. Four sets of 8. And if you look at that, you go, hey, I'm just doing 4 sets. It's going to be hard work. But if you get 4 sets, you're done.
Yeah.
It's 32 reps. Right now, I'm going so heavy that I can't do 4 sets of 8. I have to do like 8 sets of 4, my first one. But I know if I get that work in, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. The goal is to get the work in.
And then the next week, it's 5 sets of 8. You eventually get to 10 sets of 8. Like once you get to the 6 or 7 sets of 8, your first couple sets are easy.
Easy. Yep. You're
It's
like,
crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was deadlifting at work one day, and a guy that used to own a CrossFit gym up there that I used to work for first, he was working out with us, and we were deadlifting, and I got to like 315, and he was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm warming up. I'm like, I got to do like 385 today. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah. And
For sets.
for sets of 8, I was like, yeah. And I was bending over, and he was messing with me, and he touched my lower back, and he's like, dude, wait, what do you got going on back here? I was like, dude, I know, I've been telling you. That's all you got to do.
Yep.
And so, like, I even had people when we were golfing say stuff like complimenting me
Yep.
on my back, just because you just do basic stuff and you get strong.
Yep.
Like, if you do practical stuff, like, nowhere in this world are you going to be like, all right, man, get on that bench press, get on that machine over there, and then do this in the real world. You're not. You're not.
And the crazy thing is too, is just like what I liked and enjoyed about you too, is I was talking about this on the last podcast, working with AC, is you also did your homework too.
Yeah.
And so like we were working together to figure out how we can best suit your schedule, being a firefighter, waking up in the middle of the night, getting your sleep disrupted.
Yeah.
And like there's sometimes where you're in the middle of a deadlifting cycle and you got to go to a call.
Yeah, you have to go to a, like, there was a call where we were in our gear, like, kind of in the summer, it was really hot. We were doing a workout in gear, and so when you do that, you're going to get hot, you're going to be done.
Yep.
About halfway through that workout, we get a call for a car that's on fire. So I have to get out of my old gear, which is not that insulated,
Right.
and get into my new gear with my new pack, which is more insulated. I was burning up in the back of that fire truck before we even got there.
Yep.
Well, it was a semi, and I was the only one that could fit in there. So I had to go in there.
In there.
And so it's, you know, hey, here it is. Are you going to do it or not?
Yep.
And so, but through all this stuff, I've learned that you can do 10 times more than what you thought you could do when you're sore, when you're tired, all that.
Yep.
So it's never what your emotions make you think it is.
And your big thing was, even if you didn't finish that set of deadlift, you would go back to finish it. Like, even if that means you had to take a couple hours break, you had to eat, your goal was just to get the volume in however you need to get it in.
Yeah.
Because
and some days, the biggest thing too, that I even, like, I kind of asked permission, kind of told him I was doing it.
Yeah.
But he was fine with that. Was my number was, 415 for sets of 8 on back squat.
Yep.
Well, that day, I just don't feel the best.
Right.
I can hit 385. I did 385.
Right.
Because every day you're not 100%.
Nope.
So every day it's like, hey, if I can go in there and I know I can hit, 75% of the number I'm supposed to hit, you're still getting the best volume in for that day, for who you are that day.
Yep.
You can't be Iron Man every day.
Nope.
So you just do it the best you can for that day, and you get 1% better.
Yep.
If you get 1% better every day, at the end of the year, you're completely different.
Yep. Because some days are just lack of sleep. You have a
Yeah.
kid now. Like, you
Yeah.
have to take that in consideration when you're lifting. And sometimes you have to modify your workouts, and you still will get strong.
Yes. You don't have to do all the crazy stuff. My mile time's gotten better.
Yep.
Um,
Tell them your first Fran time. Do you remember that?
It was, I don't remember my first
It was
Fran time.
15:33.
15:33? Yeah. It's a long time.
Yep. And then you got down to what? Do you remember your fastest time?
215 or something.
215.
Yeah, it's on down there low. It
Right.
would be really low now.
So yeah, I forgot to tell people that too.
Yeah,
That was,
it would be ridiculous now.
and you also too, you bench over 300 pounds too.
Yeah.
So take that into consideration. Talk a little bit about your sleep, because you read a lot about sleep and how important sleep is.
So the book that I read was Why We Sleep. I think it's Matthew Walker. I had to look it up before we started so I could tell everybody, but it was a huge book. He's done the most research on sleep. And basically, I mean, I was like reading all this stuff, and he even said this stat. This, being a guy, this stuck with me. He said 2 middle-aged males, one gets consistently 6 hours of sleep, and that's on the low end. We need 7+.
Yep.
He said one gets consistent 6 hours of sleep or less, their testicles are smaller.
Wow.
from a basic standpoint. He
Yeah.
said, we've done research and they're smaller.
Yeah.
He would hit you with thousands, like hundreds of facts. It's like, dude, you can pick one or the other, but eventually you're going to have to say, okay, you got me.
Yep.
Like one of these has got to matter to you.
Right.
And so concentration, memory, brain function, everything goes
Wow.
off like sleep. So I can sleep if I wake up and I sleep for 7+ hours, I'm good to
You're in
go.
a good spot.
Yeah, like today, I got my Whoop on.
Yeah.
7 hours in the green. Last 2 days I've been in the yellow. What'd I do today? My triple clean and jerk was more than it has been in weeks.
Yeah.
And so, I got home earlier last night. I got to sleep 1 hour later than I usually do. And so, but Whoop's been helping me out with that forever. If you don't have a Whoop, get a Whoop.
Yep. It'll really help you figure out where your sleep's
It's
at.
the best sleep monitor on the market. Closest you can get to a sleep study. It's the best only wearable that's accurate on your wrist in the water. It'll track my swims and everything accurately.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So it's that good in the water too?
Yes. And so the difference between that, I have a Garmin, and I love my Garmin. My Garmin's awesome. It'll go play golf with me. It does all that stuff.
Right.
But what this does that don't is the way it monitors between your heartbeats. That's what they care about is information.
Gotcha.
They don't care about telling you what time it is.
Right.
They want everything to go into this to monitor to who you are and what you're doing. So like with my sleep, it tells me how many times I woke up. It knows when I go to sleep, when I wake up. It knows if I go play golf, ultimate frisbee, CrossFit, or I go running.
Yeah.
It knows that. I don't have to tell it, and it
Right.
shows up. And then it has a sleep coach on there. Andrew Huberman's on there talking about how to do breathing exercises to do all that stuff.
Right.
And so it's awesome. And it's
Yeah.
$30 a month, or if you want to pay less each month, you can just pay a bigger lump sum. But use my name so I can get a discount. But
Yeah.
it's awesome. It's
Right.
changed everything.
Now, if you had to tell people listening to the podcast about how to gain strength, what are some of the misconceptions that you'd be like, hey, if I would have told myself 10 years ago from today, what would you tell yourself?
Slow down.
So rest more?
Stick with the basics. Bench press, back squat, front squat, and deadlift, and some pull-ups. Your body, if you look the way it moves, it's not going to do anything else outside of those movements.
That's the way you can load your body the most anyway.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's the most efficient way. Like, I got better at back squat. Well, my wall ball time got better.
Oh, yeah, 'cause you didn't even do wall balls. Yeah,
I didn't even do wall balls. I did carrying, which is 150 wall balls per time, and it went down.
Yeah.
Just your basic strength movements. That's all you need to do.
And you only did them like, what, 3 times a week?
Like 3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's like 3 times, yeah. And then on top of that, I do extra stuff, but I'm smart about it. We've talked about
Based
that.
on how you feel.
Based on how I feel, I'll do certain things. Like I love Zone 2 training. I love it.
Yeah.
It's awesome. If I'm feeling beat up that day, Zone 2. Because you got to have a base. And I've
Explain what
noticed,
zone 2 is.
So Zone 2, the Whoop also does that for you too. You want to monitor. So there's like 4 different, isn't it 4?
Yeah,
4 different
there's
heart
4
rate
different
zones.
zones, yeah.
So Zone 2 is like, it's going to be different for everybody, but mine's like, I have to look it up. It's like 100 to 120-ish, somewhere in
So
there.
it goes
heart
based
rate.
off
Yeah.
heartbeats. That's
Yeah, based
where
off
you're
your
at.
heart rate. And
Yep.
you can add it up or you can just get a Whoop and it'll tell you. But it tells me exactly what mine is. And so it's where you just keep your heart rate
In a zone.
in that zone
Based
to
off
train
your age.
to train your base level. I've looked at a bunch of podcasts on, why it's so good. It's your foundation. Most people come in there, and if you look at 2 different people do the same workout, you're like, man, why is that guy so fast? He's not much stronger than me. Well, what has he done before this? What was his history before this? He probably has a better base. He's probably trained Zone 2 longer than you. And so Zone 2 allows you to clear lactic acid. And like Rich Froning, if we both did Zone 2, he'd be flying compared to me.
Yep.
But he's also in way better shape.
Because
in
his
a
threshold's
bunch-
bigger.
Yeah, in a bunch of different areas. And so, but from somebody that's close to me and we're doing a longer workout and we're just maintaining a pace and then hitting the gas, well, if I have a good base, I know what that feels like. I know where I'm at. And I've trained that so I can hit that number, cruise. Oh, I don't even need Zone 3 or 4 till later.
Right.
And you just pass them. And so Zone 2 has been awesome. Helps you clear lactic acid. It helps, everything. And
So that would be your top 2. Like, hey,
yeah, do Zone
basic
2.
strength and zone
Yeah,
2.
do Zone 2. Keep consistent with your strength. It's not going to be sexy.
Nope.
Tell yourself that you are a power lifter.
Yep.
If you have to. You go in there and you lift heavy stuff and you rest and you get stronger.
Yep.
You go eat a bunch of protein and you recover.
Yep. Go into that now because you do the
Yeah.
RPE diet, right?
So I did RP strength for a while and it taught me a lot. And so we did keto for a little bit, like it's really, really strict, and it helped.
Yep.
I did high carb, did low carb, We did a bunch of
He's
stuff.
tried a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like them all.
You
but,
love experiencing with diets and how they make you feel.
But my favorite one overall is the fact that I've learned how to use them. Like you learn how to use, okay, what am I doing today? Well, I'm just going to go to work. I'm probably not working out. Okay, well, I don't need that many carbs today. I can up my fat if I need to and just chill and get my protein in because my activity level's low. I guarantee you, you can go way lower on carbs than you think. I promise you. And for a lot of people, once they do that diet, it clicks.
Yep.
The first 2 weeks, you feel great. But if mentally you're struggling to do it, you're not going to like it. So I've done people's diets for them before, and I tell them, the first thing I tell them is I say, hey, look, how much water are you drinking? Well, by the end of the week, I'll have them write everything down that they eat. I was like, I'm not going to judge it. And then I'll say, all right, by the end of this week, you're going to tell me every day how much water you drink. By the end of the week, we're going to see how much water we can get.
Yep.
Then the next week, I say, okay, we're going to get a gallon by the end of the week, or based on their weight, where they're at.
Yep.
And then I say, okay. And there was a great podcast out. I don't know where I found it, but this lady's a nutritionist, and she said, okay, you can eat whatever you want today, whatever you want. After you eat, either 8 cups or 800 grams of fruits and veggies, like blended together.
Yeah.
So it could be 4 and 4 or 500
Whatever
and 200.
you want to do, just get it in.
Whatever you want to do. She said people were like, oh, great, I'll do that. They could never get to the cheeseburgers. And so, not to say just go straight vegetables.
Right.
But fruits and veggies.
She's just proving a point.
Fruits and veggies are the key. You're your friend.
Yeah.
So keep your protein good. Oh, I'm hungry? Vegetables and fruit. They're not going to hurt you.
Right.
And unless you're counting your macros for a bodybuilding competition. But nobody's doing that. But people think they're doing that.
Right.
They take stuff from bodybuilding and running, and they try to blend it into a lifestyle. And it's like, no, you're not going to look like Michael Phelps. Nobody's going to work out like that.
Nope.
And so put it into a normal person's perspective.
Right.
And you start off slow, really slow. Get that good foundation. You build momentum.
Yep.
By week 3, they're eating, they're drinking plenty of water like it's a natural habit. They got a few cups of vegetables or fruit a day, and we're concentrating on protein. Get your weight or a little bit more. I think it's 1.5 to 2 based on what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Sustain, gain, and skeletal muscle for longevity is one of the big preventers of Alzheimer's.
Oh, yeah. I mean, across almost every disease.
Gabriel, I think her name is Dr. Gabriel Lyons. She has a podcast.
She has a good week podcast too.
Yeah, and she talks about that.
Yep.
And the one thing we see with older folks at work, we go to old folks' homes, we go to their elderly's house, and the people are falling down. And they may not know where they're at, but if they can hold themselves up better, that's an injury.
Yep.
That's a death that you're preventing.
Yep.
And so, but if you're doing it before that, it's quality of life because they can get around to places they need to get to,
Yep.
And so, yeah, the longer time under tension, man, the longer you sit under heavy weight and get those reps in, the more you're going to break stuff down, the more you can go repair it. It's that simple.
Yep.
Don't work out like somebody you're not going to operate as. Don't go follow Rich Froning in the gym and be like, okay, I'm going to do what he's doing. It'd be pointless for one.
He's built that capacity for years.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not going to work. Like people always do this. It trips me out. We'll be lifting. Like, man, I can't lift with you today. I got to take off too much weight. I was like, yeah, we could sit on the floor and change it. It doesn't matter how much weight I'm lifting. I used to lift with 2 guys. One was a bodybuilder, and one was about to be a bodybuilder as well. Huge guys.
Yeah.
Benching 4 plates. We would just take them off when it was my turn.
Right.
Like, it's not hard.
Yeah.
Like, go up there, get under some heavy weight, get somebody to spot you, rest, do another set. How many sets can you get in today?
Yep.
And that's what's going to make you grow.
Yep.
Not strength and conditioning together. They're paired together, but unless you have a degree, like Coach Main over here, you don't know how to weave those together.
That's going to be tough.
Yeah. And some days it's just a conditioning day for me. Some days it's just a lifting day because they're so hard.
Yep.
Like, I'm probably going to go swim for an hour and a half this week, one time.
Yep.
Or an hour. I want to get up to 2 hours because I like swimming a lot.
Yep.
But I got to put that at the right time.
Yep. And you're
so-
building up to those things.
Yeah, I'm building up. Like, before I couldn't swim more than 20 or 30 minutes at a
Yep.
time, but now I'm up to an hour, hour and a half.
Yeah.
And so it just takes time. But fall in love with the process, and when you look up, you'll be good to go.
Yep.
Like, don't look for quick results because it ain't going to happen.
And just to give you context, like it took him technically,
Yeah.
it took him 10 years to break 500 for deadlift.
Yeah, at least. And it took, if you look up now what we know, we would have done that back then. Yeah.
Oh, we would have got there faster.
Yeah, for sure. But
Yep.
that's okay. I mean,
It's part
we
of
know
the
a lot
process.
more now. We're good to go.
Oh yeah. I mean, the research is constantly getting better, and
Yeah.
and society has a weird way of circling back and trying to create something new. when the old things have been working. I was talking to Ben the other day about the podcast too. Is there's this old book that came out like in the 1924 range. It's called The Essential of Strength by this Russian guy. And it's still literally the best book out there to read about strength.
Yeah.
It is the basics. It's easy. It's like what you said. It's either you need to add volume, in other words, set.
Yep.
Every set, every week. So if you do the same weight, let's say you do 135 pounds on the bench press.
Yeah.
You do 4 sets of 8. Next week you do 5 sets of 8. 6 sets of 8, 7, 8. And you just keep going like that until you reach 10,
One
deload,
set.
and then retest to see where you're at.
Yeah.
And it's that simple.
Right.
Or you could do the reverse. You stay at, let's say, 5 sets of 8 every single time. You do 5 sets of 8. Then on top of that, every week you add 2.5 to 5 pounds until you can't do it. And then when you can't do it, you deload. In other words, do lighter weight, do some conditioning, or just take a rest week.
It takes time. Yeah.
And you just keep doing that process. It's not rocket science. It's not complicated. It's hard to do.
People they see the glorified stuff on TV
Right.
and all the other stuff of Arnold working out. Well, they're all taking steroids. So
Oh,
get rid
yeah,
of
you
that.
gotta
That's
you
garbage.
gotta
Like,
make sure that.
yeah, let me take steroids, guys. You don't see people going to high schools and telling everybody that. Why? Because they look like garbage now.
Right.
Sorry, I don't want to have to go to a heart doctor.
Right.
I want my resting heart rate to be lower.
Right.
It just takes time.
Yep.
And so most people want to do stuff fast for whatever reason and slow it down.
Yep.
You'll be good to go.
Yep.
Like, it'll be fine.
Yeah. It's very odd and weird to see a guy who has experience in weightlifting and jump up 60 to 80 pounds in 1 year off a lift, because you're like, he's got taking steroids. I mean, if that's one of your goals and you're trying to get there, and you as long as you know the consequences to that, then by all means, go do it.
Yeah.
Like I have people that I know that do steroids, and they know the consequences. But just know, my thing is just know what you're getting yourself into.
Like when I was in college, everybody wanted to be big, you know.
Yeah.
So we lifted. I was like pushing 175. That was the biggest I've ever been. But I was lifting a pretty good bit. I wasn't that
How
strong.
tall are you?
5'5".
5'5".
And so I was like, it wasn't good. I didn't even feel good.
Yeah.
And I thought I was strong. My bench press was just high. That was it.
Yep.
And now I'm 10 times stronger than I was in every area.
Yep.
And so, but everybody wants to, let me go work out really hard. If I had a hard workout today, if I'm exhausted, then I know I did good.
Yep.
And that's not the key. Like, that's not the key at all.
Nope.
And so just take the time to do it right so you don't have to go do something else.
Yeah.
Like some days it's fun to do hard stuff. Like, and that's something that, you know, helps me with my mindset each week. Like every day I want to do something hard.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what have you done hard today to improve yourself?
Yeah.
Was it reading a book? Was it working out? Was it a talk you had? Was it something that went through your mind? What's the hardest thing you've done today? Most people don't do anything hard ever.
Yep.
And so when they have to do one thing hard, they just want to speed it up and get done with
Yep.
it. Oh, I feel exhausted.
Yeah.
You can go do that on a run
Yeah.
for an hour.
Yep.
Doesn't matter how fast you run.
Yep.
So, like, be a little bit smarter with it. Just get consistent.
Yep.
And so,
You've been consistent for a long time. Like after even his 11th year working with us, he is still one of the most consistent clients that we've have. Like his completion rate for his exercise is 90%.
yeah.
And the reason why he missed the other ones is just because he has a kid, you know,
Yeah.
it's certain other after things, he had a fire, can't do this. Like it was like our rule for all of our clients here is just like, as long as you're above 80%, you're good, because life happens.
Right.
And then one of the things I want to get into with you is like, one of the things that you did very well is just working on your boundaries, and you were just doing too much.
Mm-hmm.
So talk a little bit about that. You can do just practical stuff,
So
whether it's
I
about.
was in the story. It was after my brother passed away, and it was before I met my wife. So in between that time, there was some time where things were going right and making improvements in my life spiritually, physically, and all that good stuff. Everything was trending upward, and they had asked me to step in because I'd been serving faithfully for a while to be the youth pastor. And I was like, oh, great. Well, we have 4 youth pastors there. It's 4 campuses. We actually have, there's 4. And so it's a pretty good sized church. We have over 100 to 500 kids or something like that. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And so they asked me to run one of the campuses. I said, yeah, that's fine. You know, I'm full-time at the fire department. That ain't changing. And so they allowed me to work with my schedule and stuff. And it was great for a little bit. I got to work under a guy, you know, John Salzman. He taught me a lot.
Yeah.
And then I got to work with Hannah Gowan. She was awesome. They had both been in full-time ministry for a while. They went to Bible college. They had a lot to offer, and it was awesome. Both a lot younger than me, though, which was great.
Right.
And so so I learned a lot from them, but then things happened. John moved out. John moved to Daphne, Alabama, and he's a youth pastoring down there right now. And then Jay moved into that position good friend of ours. And so Jay was over everything. There was I had to go to a different campus. And so when I did, it means I was working under a different pastor. And so I was coaching at the CrossFit gym, full-time at the fire department, which we work 10 days a week, but it's 24 hours a day. And it's kind of hard to move your days around, which if you've been there for a while, you can do it, but it's stressful. And then I was at the church part-time.
Got married.
But this is before I got married.
Oh, before you got married.
And so I was logging my hours. I can look up on one of my notes. I worked 50 hours one week on top of what I was already working 24 hours at a time.
Oh, man.
And coaching. And so, and at one point, I was doing all that while I was still down here volunteering. So I backed out of down here pretty quick.
Right.
And I was still doing 3 things. And so what started to happen was I did meet my wife. And right about that time, I was still single. I was not married. We were dating.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see the tension a little bit, but not too much. And I was working under a pastor, and I'm thankful that it was him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so thankful.
Because it gave you what you wanted.
It gave me an outlet to see how I was stretching myself thin.
Right.
Because I was being micromanaged a little bit, and things were, because don't need to be micromanaged.
Yeah, you hate it.
Like, we deal with life and death all the time at work.
Yeah.
We make decisions very quick. We have a certain level of protocols and all that good stuff. I don't need somebody looking over my shoulder. We got a guy's leg that's 90 degrees this way.
Yep.
His heart rate's dropping. I don't need to talk to you.
Mm-mm.
Are you a paramedic? Are you a doctor? Then get out of the way.
Yeah.
We got work to do.
Yeah.
And so that's the way that I do everything else too. It's like, hey, I know what I'm doing. This is this. If I need permission, I'll talk to you.
Yeah.
But that's not how he worked.
Mm-hmm.
And so we didn't work well together, and there was a stress there, and then more expectations were being added to what I was already doing in that area. But I was also trying to get promotion at work, which you have to study 4 fire truck manuals and protocol book, and they're all huge.
Huge.
They're all really big. You can imagine what a driver's manual for a fire truck looks like.
I can imagine.
Because you got the pump, and then you got everything else. And so the first time I took this test, I didn't do that good. I was like, man, I didn't put a lot of time into it. The next time, I told everyone. I said, this happened last time. I even told the pastor, I said, this will not happen again.
Yeah.
And so what really clicked and switched everything for me is when we got married.
Yeah.
We were driving from one side of the county to the other to help out with the campus, and it was just so much. We have a class going on at school at this point on Tuesday, so I'm taking off for that. I'm having to take off for Sundays. It was just so much. I was spreading myself so thin.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was like, all right, talk to a friend, and I was like, dude, it's just too much. I've got to back out.
Yeah.
And it was right after we found out we were pregnant. And I was like, Sarah, so let's just play this out. In a few months after the baby's here, what's this going to look like?
Mm.
And I was like,
Because you're a planner.
it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, it's not going to happen. There's no way. And that's before I met my child.
Yeah.
And so I went and talked to the pastor. I said, look, it is what it is. I'm stepping down.
Yeah.
And he's like, when do you think your last day will be? And I told him a date.
Yeah.
Well, I already knew what the other guy was going to do. He's got to control everything. So he went back and changed it and moved my day up so he could have it his way. And I was like, dude, I knew you were going to do that. Why do you think I picked that day?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
We high-fived. That was good.
Right.
And so, but luckily, there was a situation that happened a long time ago at a different campus with one of the guys that I talked to. He fired him. That's who's working there now.
Oh, wow.
And so they were able to reconcile too, which was
Right.
really good.
Right.
And me and him are on great terms.
Right.
I mean, love the guy.
You're
And
human. You're going to have problems. That's
Here's
how
the
it
thing
is.
that I love so much. If it was somebody that was easier to work for, which there was a guy, and that was an option at one point, I would have been over backwards because he wasn't micromanaging. He wasn't. And I would have stretched myself so thin,
Yep.
it would have been 10 times worse.
Yep.
And so, luckily, it was him.
Yep.
And I was able to step back and say, you know what? That's the issue. Like, I'm in too deep right now. I've got to step back.
And what's crazy too is God will use people's personalities to clash to get to His plan.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take it so personal.
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I stepped back and we got married, I stepped out of ministry. Everybody was fine with it. Like everybody's like super understanding. They
Yeah.
get it. Like they completely understand. And so we get married, and God's like, we're not done.
Yeah.
And so He's like, I need you to trust me some more. Because that was an easy trust.
Right.
When everybody agrees.
Right.
And so my wife was working for a family she'd been working for 6 years, raised their 6-year-old and their 2 twins. Like when I say nanny, I mean like she had a credit card in her name.
Yep. And had her own car.
Own car.
Right.
They moved her up here.
Right.
Like she took them to doctor's offices, like everything. Like professional to the top.
Right.
And so she'd been doing that for a while. But she specialized in infants too, like all this crazy stuff. So,
Yeah.
Long story short, she had been kind of bullied for a while. And I told her, I said, look, you write really well, but she's not the kind of person to have confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
If she has
avoids like the plague.
confrontation
Yeah.
and you raise her voice, she'll back down and you automatically win.
Right.
I mean, you lose, but you win.
Right.
And so, but they knew that. And so the lady she worked for did that. And so, but Sarah wrote a letter, left it over there, and was like, hey, these are the issues that I see. I don't appreciate them, but we would like to talk and work through them. And if you know Sarah, she's not going to say a mean thing in a letter.
Yeah, Sarah's so nice.
So nice.
Yeah.
And so that was on a Sunday. We got a text on a Tuesday saying, yeah, we can meet Thursday, but make sure you bring the car and have a different way home.
Dang.
So I was like, okay, you want to win the argument and lose the relationship.
Right.
So we get there. The person that sent the text is not the person that talked. The husband talked even though she didn't work with him. She worked with the wife. The wife didn't say anything. 2 times he gave her an option. Hey, do you got anything to say? She raised your kid for 6 years. Nothing to say. That's fine.
Yeah.
Because they have a whole lot of money.
Right.
But money buys a lot of things. It doesn't make up for character.
No, it doesn't.
And so they basically just threw a bunch of money at it. And I was like, 2 weeks of pay? I was like, we've already prayed about this.
Yeah.
So, like, money's green and everybody gives it out. So,
Yeah.
So we stepped out of that. I took the car. We were with one car for a little bit. She was pregnant.
Yep.
They ended with, we want to be family and all that. I was like, okay. I was like, whatever.
Yeah, because their words said that, but their
Yeah.
actions were completely
No.
opposite.
No,
It wasn't fact.
Yeah.
It wasn't the fact. 'Cause I remember talking to you about this, that she was letting go. It was how they did it.
Yeah. And we were like, okay, you just confirmed some stuff that God already put in our hearts, so we're good.
Right.
Like, and then, they still they never asked about how the baby was doing or any of that.
Jeez.
But we didn't need them though. And we didn't need their money because it's not their money.
Yeah.
Money's green and everybody's got it.
Yeah.
And everybody gonna give it out.
Yeah.
And so we prayed about it for a while. And while we're on vacation, New Year's weekend with our friends, Hannah and them, Hannah was like, hey, they're starting a PDO, a parent stay out program at the church at the campus right by your house. I think Sarah would be great for that.
Mm-hmm.
She loves it.
Yeah.
She gets to spend 3 days with Katie on our off days.
Yeah.
We're going to probably homeschool anyway.
Yeah.
And so it just sets up, it's perfect. And so she got quality of life and a job that's more to her calling that she has a great story about that, but
Right.
it literally goes right in with her calling. It's
Yeah.
great. And so it's kind of what happened to me too. I got out of here and work quality of life got better and then had to figure everything else out. But
Yeah.
So.
And learning to say no is hard.
Dude, yes. But now I'm telling you, once I got married, and yeah, we knew we were gonna have a baby too, but that just solidified it even more. Like once I got married, there was a nail in the coffin.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this is it.
Yep.
And now I'm very adamant about okay. You want me to serve? That's fine.
Yep.
What level?
Right.
Okay, this is the price tag for that level.
Right.
Period. I'm not going to move on that.
Because you have other obligations or
Yeah,
responsibilities.
because I'm taking time away from them to be with you.
Right.
And if I do that, I usually work overtime or a part-time or something, which is fine.
Right.
But if you're taking over that now, you also take that responsibility.
Mm.
You're going to pay for that.
Right.
Period.
Right.
And if you don't, I'll find somebody who does.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
And so I told him, I was like, I worked 40 plus hours a week, but they would only give me $200 every 2 weeks. I said, yeah, I know what part-time makes there. If I come back, that's what my number will be. And if you want me, you have to pay for me.
That's right.
But now it's, I'm not worried about it.
No.
That's the standard, and that's it. If you can
Yep.
meet it, that's great. If you can't,
I'll go spend time with my family.
yeah, I'll help you on a lower basis
Yeah.
and still show up when I can.
Yeah.
And but with a family, it's 10 times easier to be like, put your foot in the ground.
Right.
But if I would have done that before, it would have seemed more selfish to me.
Right.
And I don't think that's why I did it.
Right.
And so, when in reality, it was the same truth. It's the same fact.
Mm.
you're taking time away from everything I do. Because when I'm not at work, that's my life.
Right.
I have a great job, but that's
Right.
not my life. I've told him that. I said, the only reason I'm here is because of the green and the benefits.
Yep.
Let's be honest.
Right.
And so, but everybody knows that. So
Right.
everybody laughs about it. But
Because if you didn't get paid, no one would do the job.
exactly. Yeah. Volunteering's fun, but you can't pay the bills doing that.
That's right.
So,
And that's the misconception. People think that you can find a job and you feel like you never work a day in your life. That is completely baloney.
yeah. It's
And I don't
garbage.
know why people.
Yeah.
people say
Everybody that owns a business, they're stressed out too.
That's right.
Like, they just make a lot more.
Yeah, and you think that, and just speaking from my own insecurities, you think that by you leaving a job, not working for a boss, that you don't have a boss now.
Yeah.
Your customers are your boss now.
Exactly. Like the owner of the Mavericks, he's going to go on a different boat this weekend than me
Yep.
because he has more money,
Yep.
you know? So, yeah, man, it's crazy. Like, but yeah, having them two
Yeah.
be a part of my life now, it's so easy to have that and set that in stone. But if I would have done it before, I think I would have seen it as, oh, I think I'm being selfish
Right.
when I really wasn't.
Yeah.
Which, okay, it is being selfish, but not for those reasons, but for mental and spiritual health. You know?
Right.
Like, that's what it would have been for.
Yep.
And so, if I would have done it before, it may not went down the same. It may not have come out the same.
Right.
But God used it either way.
Yep.
So, it came out good in the end.
Yeah.
But
And that's one thing I've noticed too. Me and you both growing along our journey too is we just don't take things so personal because our identity is in Christ.
yeah,
You know, it's like I used to get butt hurt pretty easily, pretty quickly, whether it's internally or externally. And it's just
Yeah.
like our job doesn't define our identity.
No.
Our athletic performance or goals, like those are a byproduct of our identity,
Right.
but Christ is our identity.
Yeah.
And that's challenge every day.
it's like we go play golf all the time with friends, and as soon as that round's over, like right after, you know who won. But in a week, you're gonna forget it.
Yeah.
30. Like we played 8 rounds about a week ago.
Yeah.
In a week, and
Because you guys went on a trip.
yeah, I remember some of that. I remember the fun parts.
Yep.
Nobody gives a crap about the score. Come on, man. You're gonna go play a game against somebody and do something, and you're gonna lose. You're gonna win. But what's the product of it? Are you leaving bitter for literally no reason?
Right.
I mean, it's a game of basketball.
Yep.
You know, so or a competition. It's like, you know, like I want to go swim next year, like the 3-mile race.
Right.
And so I want to do a 5-mile too, but I don't care. Like if I got to start behind y'all, that's fine. I'm racing against the clock
Right.
because I just want to do it.
Right.
And so that's what all long distance racing is anyway. With swimming,
Yep.
they're racing against the clock. They don't care about nobody else.
Yeah. Your biggest competitor is yourself.
Yeah,
It
if you
literally
look
is.
at, if you want a mental toughness, look at Ocean 7 by Adam Ocean Walker. Adam Ocean Walker is his Instagram,
Right.
but Adam Walker, I think is his name. He did the Ocean 7, and he did it in a record time.
It's a
the
swimming thing.
It's the 7 hardest swims in the world. 7
Oh, wow.
longest, 7 most challenging. Some of you do it at night. I'm out on that.
Yeah.
But he had a shark repeller on his wrist, and he saw a shark below him, and he's like, "Oh, it's far enough away." Comes up a couple hours later, they were like, "Yeah, your repellent, like it's an electrical thing, it's been off for the last 2 hours." And they're always hitting jellyfish,
Yep.
and it's wild.
Man, that's crazy.
He hurt his arm while he was swimming. He had to redo his stroke while he was swimming.
Holy cow.
It's a great book.
Yeah.
And everybody talks about English Channel. That's a warm-up, dude. That is a warm-up.
English. Wow.
And it's super cool. And then Ross Edgley's over here doing, he did a marathon with a log.
Holy
He did an Ironman with a log attached to him. He swam with it, he ran with it, he biked with it.
And what's crazy too is you've studied these guys who are
Yeah.
physically and mentally
Oh,
just
dude.
there.
Yeah.
And so you're starting to see a constant trend with these
Yeah.
guys and how they do things.
And there's a Navy SEAL book that I read years ago.
Yep.
And it just talks about it. Like,
Yep.
I mean, that's why I think, like, a lot of times when I get excited to do something, like in the split of the moment, like if we walk into a room and they say, "Okay, y'all two are paired up. This is the challenge. You got 10 minutes." I look at the person, I'll freaking chest bump them right then and say, "All right, let's freaking go. That's our goal. That's what we're doing.
Right.
Nothing else matters. Let's go." And if you can do that about the little things, you can do that about the big things. Because I always
that's good.
I always saw my parents growing up. working more than one job. Sometimes my dad did it. One time my mom did it. My dad didn't like it, but she had to because he
Right.
couldn't. He was working one and she worked two,
Right.
and so, or she would work two and he would work none. Like it was a you if you drop the ball, I'll pick it up, and then we'll do that. And they always did that, and so I saw it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do that, and that's how I've been in all my stuff with teammates and stuff like that.
Right.
So, or with anything, because like a smoke diver, after every evolution, we would always tell each other how tired we were and how we felt.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, all right, I'm good right now. I just need a minute. Or I would say, hey, I'm out. Hide my bottle. Give us an extra few minutes. Because the goal is not to make friends when we leave here, but to complete this.
Mm.
And so that's it.
Right.
That's why you're there. And so usually, like when you're on scene of a wreck or a fire or whatever, people have been doing it long enough, so we don't have to be super intense. But when you're in those situations, that's all that matters. You can bust a window without any repercussions. You can bust a door. We've even backed up fire trucks to those big compact compressors for garbage and pulled them out and strode them out in the street.
Yeah.
Because you have a job to do, and that's
Yep.
it.
The goal is get them and save them.
Yeah, and to do what you have to. And
To get
so,
there.
but if you apply that to everything else, it's like, well, we got to go do this competition this weekend. What are the workouts? How long have we planned for them?
It's not, oh, here are all the problems with no solutions.
Yeah,
it's like, here's the task.
yeah.
I have to find a solution.
Here's
We
the
have to do
task.
this.
What's it going to take for me to get this done?
Yep.
Well, somebody that's better than me could get this done, yeah, but I don't care about that.
Right.
Like, I don't care about somebody that's stronger or whatever. Like when we would approach a workout, we would always look at what it would take to get me through it
Mm-hmm.
and say, okay, this is our plan. You have to attack at this part. Or in life, when we were down to one vehicle, we sat together and we said, okay, what's our week look like?
Yep.
What's our day look like?
Yep.
And stuff changed, priorities changed, stuff happened, stuff didn't happen. And so it was, and we've always done it. We meet every week about finances and about everything else.
With your wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and her meet about everything.
That's good.
So yeah, that's something we've started doing from right on the bat.
Right. And what I've noticed too is the books that you've read about mental toughness and these guys who have not only talked about it, but have showed their mental toughness.
Yes.
That's one of the big things is they communicate and they have a plan.
Yeah, you
They
gotta have a
communicate
plan,
how
like,
they feel.
become a better listener,
Yep.
and then how many questions can you ask?
Yep.
Like, if somebody says, okay, beginning of a course, we're going to have 8 tests
Mhm.
over this book. Okay, well, what's something you want to know about that?
Yep.
How many questions are on the test?
Yep.
Is it an open book?
Because what a lot of people do, I'm glad that you said that, because what a lot of people do is they look at like, hey, here's the test. They start thinking about the problems and how they're not going to be able to do it and play a victim mentality. It's like, no, it's like once you see that, you have to
own it.
think about how am I going to get this
Yeah.
done and what questions I need to do to get this done.
Yeah.
Not victim mode. You got to get out of that
I
mindset.
love, and honestly, seems counterintuitive, but if I can ever do something without repercussions the first time and fail and then do it again, oh, I got you.
Yeah.
So that's what happened with the driver test
Hmm.
at work. The first time, I didn't do as well because I was knee deep. I was doing 5 different things at one time.
Right.
So while I was taking the driver's test, I was full-time in ministry, full-time at work, coaching at the gym. And at the end of that year, I was also trying to surprise Sarah with an engagement.
Right.
So I had to get her parents from Jackson to come up there. I had to coordinate all the stuff at the church where we were going to do it. I had to coordinate everything without telling her.
Right.
And I talked to her about everything. And I'm a talker, so I'm going to talk
You
anyway.
are.
So it's hard not to talk to somebody who you talk to about everything, about something
Yep.
you're excited about. So I did all that, so I did all that while I was taking the test, and I didn't do that good. I was like number 6 out of like 10.
Right.
Well, a bunch of people got promoted, and I was next up to get promoted, and the guy left a month after I was eligible. So I didn't get it. I knew that was going to happen.
Right.
But I said, okay, I'm not at the church anymore full-time or part-time. What can I do to pass this test? I said, I know what it's going to take to pass it. There's a practical side of it too, and there's a written test. And I said, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
So I knew how to study for the written test. I knew how to study for the practical. I did it every day for like 3 or 4 months, whether I was at work or not.
Yeah.
So when I got to the test, I finished the test. Half the answers, I didn't know the exact answer about that one thing, but the other 3 options I knew everything about. So I could reason through everything.
Wow.
And I could say, yeah, that's not true because I know all 3 of these. but I can't remember this exactly, but I remember this. We got to the practical. There's other questions that are available on there, but they don't tell you what they are. So if you have a really good run, you pull the truck up to a fire, you have to get water coming out, the right pressure, the right length. Everything has to be spot on in a certain amount of time. Then you have to get water into the truck. If you don't do that, you fail.
Right.
But if you pull up just the right distance, if you hook it up without any mess ups, if you go the right pressures, if you set your relief valve, all this stuff, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So if you do it really well, you get extra points. Well, I knew the extra questions that they had asked the year before, like the bonus questions. So I just rehearsed those every day.
Yep.
When I was at work, I would teach somebody those. And so it's their fault they asked the same ones.
That's right.
That's on you, bro.
Yep.
I thought you were, and I literally, the deputy chief was there. I was like, I thought you were going to ask about this. So when he asked the first question, I said, look, let me go ahead and just get this out of my system. I answered all three.
Yeah.
I was like, you got any more? He said, no. Okay. And so on the practical part, they asked a question, and I knew the information so well because I knew what it took, because I failed the first time.
Right.
In my opinion, I failed the first time. I didn't get promoted.
Right.
So when he asked me the question, I said, I don't know that answer, but I know it's written. The numbers are written out. It's not the actual number. The number was like 10, but it was written out, the word 10.
Yeah.
I was like, the number on there is written out, isn't it? It's not in print. And he said he couldn't say anything to me. I said, I know it's not, because I remember everything about that page.
Right.
I got it all there, and I was right.
Right.
I didn't know it because I didn't remember, but I knew for a fact it wasn't written because I had every number memorized.
Right.
So, but I started asking questions. What's it going to take?
Yep.
It's going to take me memorizing this much times a day, doing the book, doing this, doing that, and then you just get into the process.
Yeah. And I love that. One thing I loved about you is you had a plan, you knew how much it was going to cost you, and when you did fail, you took your failures to like, what did I learn from this failure, and how can I capitalize so it won't happen again?
Oh, if I do something and fail the first time, and you give me another chance to do it, I know how much it's going to take to exceed the next time to do better. So, yeah.
Yeah. Now, we'll close with this. What would you tell people that are on their fitness journey that need help, and want to invest into their health?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think are some of the markers they should look for? Because you've met a lot of coaches, you've read a lot of books, you've talked to a lot of people, you experience with a lot of diets. What do you think people should look for in a coach? Because a lot of people, they'll find, and this is me and you talk about this all the time, is they'll look for these coaches and they're guessing on their program.
Oh, yeah.
And so talk a little about what are some of the pro markers that you think that you should look for when you're looking for somebody?
Most people that go to college and come out with a degree in any kind of physical training, I probably know more than them right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not being cocky, but only reason I know that is because me and you talked about it when you were doing it.
Yeah.
And it's like very basic. If you want to go to a Globo gym, which is like the DAC, I love the DAC.
Right.
They have trainers up there. They teach you on a machine. That's not going to teach you how to pick up a trailer hitch off the ground. And so they start with a base level, they overcharge, and they just motivate the crap out of you. And so they're not real coaches. And so they know one marker, but they've probably run no tests on you. They don't know any information about you. They don't know whether you smoke, drink, married, divorced, going through a relationship breakup, or none of that, because it all affects it.
Yep.
Everything. If you have panic attacks, that affects it.
Yep.
And so the job of a coach is to say, okay, you're 85 and you want to get to where you can walk around the block for a mile. Okay, you're 15, you want to get better at tennis. You're 21, you want to be a bodybuilder. That coach should be able to do all three. And if you can't, you're just not, you don't know enough yet. Or you're only specialized in one. You have one product to offer, not more than one.
And usually when they're doing that, they're just offering them a program that they're giving everyone.
Yeah, it's like this. If they were selling cars, they would have one card in their lot. It
That
would
is
be
a
the
good
same
analogy.
color, same all the time. But Coach Main's got 15.
Ferraris, Corvettes.
He's got whatever you want, because I know he's went with older clients, younger, my age, everybody.
Yep.
And his job is to get you from one point to the other. But if you tell him everything that's going on in your life, not like a therapist, but like, hey, I party on the weekends.
Just be honest.
And I eat junk food.
Yep.
Okay. Well, both of us know you need to stop doing that, but he's not going to hit that first. He's going to say, yeah, that number would probably be higher on that if you did this, if you got better sleep. Because all that affects everything else.
Yep.
It's going to affect your sleep. It's going to affect your emotions. Like, I did a breathing thing for a month, Wim Hof's breathing.
I remember that.
And I read 2 books on breathing. It was really good. And so it's amazing.
Yep.
They talk about the effects. I did ice baths every day too.
Yep.
And so they did some of his breathing techniques you can find online. Do the 3 rounds. It's really easy. And do it for a month. And you get so much better. And it attacks your central nervous system in a way that represents what physiologically happens to an ice bath.
Yeah.
In a way. You could also do an ice bath for your face too. It's the same thing. And so, but you do those things and it helps you handle stress better. It helps you start your day better. And I'll experiment with stuff like that all the time.
Yeah.
But find a coach that is selling more than one plan.
Yeah.
And more than one thing, and they can get you to your goals and tell you what it's going to take to get there.
They don't fluff you. They don't flatter you.
They say, this is what it's going to take. I can get you there. This is your timeline. I have to run a test on you. I have to know. Because if you don't tell them everything, he has to run tests on you to figure everything out.
Yep.
And so the more he knows about you, the better off it is. It's like Whoop. The longer you wear it, the more it knows about you.
Man, that's a good point.
And so find somebody that has more than one product, selling more than one car. 99% of people at every place that claims to be a personal trainer has only went through one class that gave them a certificate. CJ's went through more classes than anybody at that high level.
Yeah.
One class from OPEX is enough. But you've done multiple. Like,
yeah, it took
you
a
went
year to get through that.
Was it Venezuela or Chile or something?
Yeah,
Like,
I went to Costa Rica.
I mean, just the basic stuff
Yeah.
will get you far enough. But he will have people come in here and say, hey, I want to get healthier. Well, now they're off their blood pressure medication. They stop smoking. That's not his goal, but that's what happens as a result of improvement.
Yep.
Because when you talk about the body, you talk about everything.
Yep.
So like, if you look at Superman, nothing can stop him but Lois. He had to have permission.
Yep.
So mentally, and he was garbage up top.
Yep.
She had to tell him it was okay.
Yep.
Rocky, she had to tell him it was okay. Like, these dudes could go kill it, but they had to tell him it was okay.
Yeah.
You need somebody to say, hey, look, this is okay, this is not, do this, don't do this. And if you can just follow that and work hard, just do that, it's going to work out.
Yep.
But you're not going to become someone different while you're doing the same stuff.
Nope.
You can't just be like,
that is good.
I'm going to add this one thing and all this other stuff will change. No, you'll just see how much it's affecting you. You know?
Man, that's good.
Yeah. It's like inflammation in
Yeah.
the body. Like, so I had allergies really bad. And with inflammation, you look at your bad oils, your gluten, your bread, your stuff like that, your milk. So bad, but it's so good.
Yeah.
And you look at all that stuff. Most people's inflammation, if it goes from here to here, sits about right here.
Yeah.
And they'll do one thing. Oh, it's the flowers this year. Oh, I had a Mountain Dew. Or,
Right.
oh, it was just the dairy. No, what else led it up there? Your body doesn't stay from 0 to 100. You have bad oils. You have a bad sleep.
Yep.
Sleep jacks your inflammation up in your
Stress.
body automatically. Stress. It makes everything harder. So if your baseline is sitting here and you add working out to that, it's going to increase.
Yep.
But if you're already here from everything you've been doing on the side that has nothing to do with working out, and you add working out in, oh man, my joints are hurting now. It's because I'm working out. No. Working out's only this part.
Yep.
The bad oils and lifestyle is your base.
Yep.
So it changes everything.
Yep.
So find somebody who's able to get you from point A to point B in more than one way
Yep.
and stick with it. Be willing to do something hard every day
Yep.
to grow. Be like, you know what, I can get 1% better every day.
Yep.
And so something I started doing was reading a book a week.
Yeah.
And so this year we're reading 52.
Yep.
And that's been awesome.
Yep.
And so all that stuff that I learned with learning and asking questions is still going. It's
Right.
not, God's able to use that. It's
Yeah.
not just something that is used once.
Mm-hmm.
Something that's good for God and His kingdom, it lasts in every area and it keeps going, doesn't stop.
Right.
It's not just a one-time fix.
That's right.
So, yeah. And then question why you're doing it.
That's good. If your coach
Like-
can't answer your questions or gets offended why he's find a new one.
Yeah. Like, hey, why are you working out? I just want to look better. Okay. We can help you do that. But you have to be honest with yourself. What's the real why? Mm-hmm. So after I became a youth pastor, they asked me to speak at one of the colleges over there and for like a leadership thing. And there wasn't a whole lot of students in there. And so they said, have a message or whatever. So I talked about Peter. And, when he went and he sat down with, he wouldn't sit down with the Gentiles, but he would sit down with his own. And then Paul came over there and rebuked him. He was like, what are you doing?
Right.
And I was like, Peter could have if he would have asked himself, who do I want to sit with and why, before he even got there, and pre-planned the situation out and been honest with himself, he would have been like, yeah, I don't want to sit with the Gentiles. I don't want to. And then he asked himself why again. Get to the root of the problem. My issue was, the way it affected me was, I would be dating somebody, and the part of me that was in church, following the right rules, doing the right thing, but not really following it on the outside.
Right.
I was saying one thing but doing another.
Right.
I was like, yeah, I'm not going to sleep with anybody before marriage. Wrong.
Right.
And so I had to get honest with myself. So after the breakup, I was like, why was I with her?
Mm.
And if I was to date somebody right now, what would I do?
Right.
And I was like, I'd probably sleep with them.
Yeah.
I was honest.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, what do we got to do to not do that?
Yeah, you got to be honest. If you can't be honest,
If you're honest, you can be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen?
you lie more to yourself than anyone other person on the planet.
Yeah. So if I'm honest with myself about something that I think happened and it was really bad, and I go to a friend and I say, look, man, it's just been killing me. You know, I feel guilty for this. And I tell them, well, he has an outside perspective. He's either going to say one of two things. Yeah, and you were wrong, but hey, let's get out of this. Or, no, you weren't wrong. You just feel that way. Well, let's figure out why. It's some complex of thinking about something a certain way, something from your past. 99% of coaches can't offer that.
Right.
Coach man can't.
Coach man.
That's right. So like, it's not about just helping you in one area.
It's all there. Man, that's so good you said that.
It's like, hey, I just want to get strong. Okay, go work out with the guys at the gym, and they'll spot you and they'll help you get strong. But they can't answer any other questions you have in life.
Yeah.
You have 10 things on a list. All of them can make you better as an athlete.
Yep.
You only want to improve one. Why?
Yep.
They all can make you better.
Yep.
And so whenever I started realizing I didn't have to work out so much all the time, so hard all the time, and reach for everything,
Yep.
I was able to only reach for a little. But, you know, if you're only doing a little bit, you're focused.
Yep.
And so one of the pastors that I listened to, he was like, 90% of the youth pastors in America, their biggest problem is they're not focused.
Yep.
They got too much going on.
Yep.
And he said, sink it down, condense it down, get
Yep.
focused. So
Yep.
now I go to work. I work part-time at work. I'm at home with my family, and I work out. But I work out when I'm at work. So that's two birds with one stone.
Yep.
I coach at the gym. But when I go coach, I work out before that. And then I only swim on days where they're either sleeping in or they're at work together because baby goes to work with Sarah.
Right.
So it works out. It's
Yeah.
a lot easier.
Yeah.
And so I'm able to swim, run, do whatever, and it all works out. But we learned that early on.
Right.
As soon as he condensed my programming down, I was like, why? And then he told me. And I was like, okay, I trusted him.
Yep. It gave you that. It gave you much more flexibility.
Yeah, it gave me a lot more flexibility. Like, you don't have to go, you know, do you want your back squat to be stronger, or do you want to physically, or you want to get better at jiu-jitsu? Okay, then just do the exercise he's telling you and do them the best of your ability.
Yep.
3 power cleans. Okay, a max. I'm going to find my max today. That's it.
Yep.
And then tell him how you felt after. There's a comment section on the bottom of this thing all the time, and that's how
Yeah.
I use it. Like,
Yeah.
hey, CJ, I felt great today. I felt bad today. This is why my numbers look this way.
Yep.
And he takes that into account.
Yep.
Because that matters.
100%.
Like 99% of the people on YouTube and all that stuff are talking about working hard and doing this every day and doing
Just
that.
grind.
Yeah, just grind. Yeah, you're on steroids, so you can do that. Like, get off of them, and then we can talk about it.
That's right.
Like, recover yourself
Yep.
and have to deal with everything yourself instead of having to just do that all the time.
Yep.
And it changes everything when you get to that spot where this is why I'm doing this today. You know, I want to be stronger. I want to be able to do stuff. Like, because I go play Ultimate Frisbee too in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be faster. Well, this strength stuff's made me faster. Nobody can keep up with me out there. And the only reason I don't do that good sometimes is because that game is like chess, man. You have to move in the right direction at the
Yeah.
right time. If not, you're done. And so, but it's a challenge, and I like that. And physically, you can get more fit too.
Oh yeah. Close and last question. Ready for this?
Give it to me.
What's your favorite dessert to cook?
I do cook dessert. But I only cook a
You
few.
need some
I only
dessert,
cook a
baby.
few. So, like, I cook a nutter butter pie.
Yep.
I do a chocolate cake, but it's real light. It's got coffee icing.
Yep.
I do a strawberry cake, which a lot of people like, and then I put real strawberries in there, and then I do this lemon blueberry one. But
Out of all of them, which one is your favorite?
I
to
usually go in phases. Like,
Yeah.
I'll be like, I really want chocolate today, or I really want strawberry.
Oh, okay.
And my thing is, though, I'll be thinking about it for more than just a day. And it'll build. It'll build. And if I don't get what I want within a week, it builds up. And I'm
Yeah.
like, guys, I'm making a cake, but I'm taking like half of this thing. And I'll just go in there and black out. Like one time I wanted a milkshake, but I wanted a milkshake for like 2 weeks. And I was like, I'm going to get one today.
Yeah.
Go to work. We didn't buy one. I said, guys, next day we have to have one. So I went and got ice cream myself. I had 2 of the Nukes Cups milkshakes.
Yeah.
And I just knocked them out. I knocked one in about a half. But I was like, I would say, you know,
It's a season for you.
it
depends
goes
on what
back
it is.
and forth. My dad always wants me to make strawberry cake. and the guys at work will be back and forth. They're like, you got to cook this, you got to cook that. I'll be like, dude, I don't want to cook for y'all all the time.
Right.
But if I cook with them, at the news station I'm at, a guy will be like, hey, man, you can eat with me. I'm like, all right, I'm in.
Yeah.
So, chocolate or strawberry usually.
Yeah. Chocolate strawberry.
Brooks loves the Nutter Butter Pie. Like every time he talks about it. Like, yeah.
Well, Porter, it was good talking to you. I'm excited we got to sit down and do the podcast.
Yeah, man, it was good.
And I hope this encourages y'all.
Yeah, me too.
See y'all.
Yep.